quite an interesting aircraft and interesting build as well. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and I'll be opening up a Hasegawa kit today. This particular one here. This is the 1:48 scale Kyushu. It is Kyushu. J7W2 Interceptor. Now this is a Shindenkai. So Shinden was the this was a pusher prop version, which they actually made prototypes, and this is the what if jet version. So there was talk that there was meant to be a jet version because of all the positive feedback they got from the original pusher prop prototype, and it would have been a natural progression to use it with a jet engine. So let's have a closer look here from the top. Quite a unusual shaped aircraft. So you've got very short winglets here at the rear end, two vertical stabilizers, and the canards at the front. So the proposal was in the late 1944, I think. The Imperial Command were looking for a new design of aircraft that had interceptor capabilities of bringing down the Allied bombers that were coming over Japan. So they needed something like this, which was fast, small, lightweight, and could carry quite a bit of armament. And they proposed this particular design because winglets at the back allowed weaponry to be mounted into the nose. So hence you can see two cannons in the nose here, which allowed for more accurate, I guess, firing. There's a lot more room for ammunition. There were some stores underneath the wings as well for rockets and also for fuel tanks. Let's look inside. Alright, so we are greeted with a bag of bits, and you'll see that there's an odd packet here. So these are the additional parts for making the intakes for the jet engine and also for the jet exhaust, or the nozzle. All the rest of the parts will be common with the pusher prop version. And then we've got some decals in there. Alright, let's pull out these bits and have a closer look. Okay, let's look at this bit first. This is the packet with the clear parts and also the special bits. Okay, zoom in a bit. Okay, I'm not going to take these out of the packet. So these are a resin cast extra parts. So these are the side intakes. So you can imagine the nose of the aircraft on this side. So intakes through here, the air, and then that's the nozzle out the back for the jet engine. Looks pretty good. And from the center, there is detail to see the compressor blade on the inside. Very crisp resin moldings, to the point where when I first looked at this I thought, oh wow, that's plastic injected, but it's not. It's actually cast. Very nicely done indeed. From there we have the glass parts. A bit hard to see there, I guess. See some reflections there, so as expected, quite thin and very clear in three parts, so you can have that all mounted up as in the open canopy position so you can see more of the cockpit. Okay, let's see some of the bigger chunkier bits. Alright, so this will give you an indication of the size of the model. So 48 scale, still got a decent wingspan. You can see these cutouts here for the vertical stabilizers. You've got raised panel lines, because this is a sort of oldish kit. Standing pilot figure. And then the seat and the undercarriage doors. Actually, I moved the wrong thing. Let's zoom in on it. There's your pilot figure. Looks pretty good. I mean, it's probably a bit soft compared to modern standards, but all in all the proportions are really good, and well applied paint will really make that pop. Here you can see the raised panel lines. And then we have some parts for the undercarriage, and there's the main undercarriage doors there. Pilot seat. Actually, I missed the pilot's arm. There's the pilot's arm holding onto the gloves. Okay, now let's move on to the bottom of the wings. You see some strut, or I guess it's frame detail in the undercarriage wells. Again, we've got raised panel detail here. Now when we talk about kits, we quite often talk about engraved panel lines. So these control surfaces here are engraved, but most panel lines which are fine are often engraved, and that was easier to do in tooling. In a way, it also looks more realistic to do it this way. The down point is most people are looking for engraved panel lines now because it's much easier to put the wash in them, and also when you're sanding down joins, there's less chance of destroying the detail. But there's no need to totally poo-poo raised panel lines. They still look pretty good because they're really fine. Okay, so there's the inside mould. So quite a large piece. Alright, now we get into the fuselage parts. Okay, you've got this is the pusher prop from the original Shinden, so we won't be using that. Here we have the fuselage. It's actually this way up. You can see the original intakes for the engines. That's where the newer versions are just going to fit over the tops here, and the bulge goes over this particular bulge as well. So we've got the wing stabilizers here, some undercarriage struts. Here we've got the cockpit instrument panel. So you can see that there. Got the pedals just next to it. There's the wheels. And you've got your front undercarriage well there. And then the internal with some cockpit detail as well. Okay, and then we've got the other side. So here's the other part of the fuselage. Again, you've got the cockpit section here. Here's the gate and the canards and a weapon area, and here it is there. Actually, looking at it from this angle, it actually has 4 cannons in the nose. Got the spinner for the prop, which we won't be using, and then also the engine cowling. Right, so there's a well, that's a vertical stabilizer, I should say. You can see some of the detail, the raised detail coming up on the fuselage. Air intake, which is going to be covered up with the new resin parts. And here's the canards on the front. So there's the nose, and you'll see there's 4 guns within the nose section. And there's the engine cowl you won't be using, and the spinner you won't be using, but there's the front wheel. And the rear bulkhead for cockpit, and the front strut. Okay, from there we have this skinny bit here. Here's the cowlings, or actually the intakes covers for the propeller driven version, so you'll be leaving those off. Some little finer details. There's the front undercarriage doors, and then the cockpit. So that's a bucket for the cockpit. Undercarriage doors, so they've got some internal detail, fairly smooth on the other side. Some of the finer details there. This part you won't be using. Okay, from there we've got this part here, which will be the weaponry. So there's 2 sprue that are identical, and we have rails for rockets and also for tanks. So if we have a closer look, spin it around. So the tanks in halves, so this one and this one. Some rails here for the smaller rockets. This is a big giant rocket there, a bit scary. So these are all designed to take down big bombers before they reach the mainland. And some really good detail on the fins and such on these smaller rockets. It's great how they're all molded in one piece. Okay, and that is all the plastic parts. Now what we're left is a nice sheet of decals. Okay, so decals have the obvious Japanese markings, but there's also some German markings as well. So you've got some lightning bolts there, and then there's a what if German version. Got the decals there for the instrument panel. There's some swastikas as well, and then you've got the registration numbers, a little bit of German warnings, and then this is all the Japanese markings across the top. Okay, so let's have a look at the manual. Alright, now I probably need to zoom that out a touch. Move that out of the way. Alright, so front page, we have some history on the actual aircraft. We've got the legend of all the parts and the parts that you won't be using, so obviously the parts that were used on the original Shinden. And then there's a packet of the new resin parts. We have a paint chart here which shows all the GSI numbers, and then we start the construction. So all in the cockpit. So adding the bulkhead, two halves are joined together with the front wheel well for the wing. That's getting put together with the vertical stabilizers. The resin intakes are glued into place with the front canard. Additional barrels for the cannons there as well. Then we have the front undercarriage going into the well with the doors. Main undercarriage under the wings. We've got the resin jet exhaust going in place, and then the canopy gets glued into place, and there's your pilot. From there we have the stores options. So we've got fuel tanks, small rockets, and a gigantic rocket. So where's the gigantic rocket go? I guess it goes on the center pylon. Oh no, it goes on the end there, on one of the wings. And then we have all the markings. So you have your options of doing the 352nd Naval Flying Group, or there's a German version down below here. So that's in a sort of the 3-tone splinter, and some tips on how to do the decals. So that's it. So there you go. That is my open box review of the Hasegawa 1/40 scale Shindenkai, Kai being experimental, oh that's the meaning of it, of a what if jet powered interceptor from late World War II. So not an actual plane that came to bear, but a prototype was made, and it definitely did fly very well. Just didn't have enough time for the development work, but quite an interesting aircraft and interesting build as well. So have a closer look at that. If you like this review, please give me a like below, and if you'd like to see more content like this, please consider subscribing. So thank you very much.